This video was brought to you by Indently.io, learning Python made simple. How's it going, everyone? In today's video, I'm going to be teaching you a little optimization, which is actually quite important when you are using the requests module. And this has to do with caching. So if you don't know what caching is, this will be the perfect video for you. Anyway, what I'm going to do first is explain what I have on this screen. First of all, I'm using the request module, or I'm importing the request module so that I can create a simple API request. Then I defined a function called getCountryInfo. And what it does is take a country name and return a dictionary of type string to string. Now the URL that I'm going to be using is this one over here. This is just a random API I decided to go with to demonstrate how caching works in this video. Then I created a try and except block, and what I'm trying to do is grab the response from this URL. The next line raises an HTTP error if one occurs, and then immediately under I try to grab the data from the response, which is going to be response.json at the index of 1. Right below that I created something called source, and it's going to equal the cache if the response is taking that data from the cache. Otherwise, it's going to say API. So we can figure out whether we're getting live data or we're getting data from the cache. Now, don't worry about any of this right here. This is not the important part of the video. This is just a simple API request. As you can see, once we get all of that, we try to return the data from the API. So first we check the source. Is it from the cache or is it from the API? Then we try to get the country name, the capital, the region, the population, and the currencies of that country. And if anything goes wrong, we're just going to return a dictionary that says error with the error as the value. Now below that, I have my main entry point. And while true, I decided to grab the input from the user that allows them to enter a country name so that we can get the data from that country. As you can see, the line immediately below it grabs that info. And finally, we display the information nicely using a for loop. We have the country information, a divider, and then for key value in info.items, we're printing the key and the value, which is pretty much going to mirror this information. Now, just to demonstrate how this works, we're going to run this project. We're going to pass in Italy, and what we should get as an output is this country information. We have the source, which is the API, the name, which is Italy, the capital, which is Rome, the region, which is Europe, and so on. Next, let's type in something such as Denmark. As you can see, it takes a moment to retrieve that information, but once it does, we get all of that information back. But now imagine we forgot what Italy looked like, or what the information from Italy looked like, so we decided to type it in once again. Well, as you can see, it still took a moment to retrieve that information, and that's because it's making a live request. And if you're ever working with an API that does not update its information that frequently, then performing operations such as this one can be seen as a huge waste because you are requesting the same information from the server, which takes a lot of time because, again, it has to make this request to the server. And why do we want to make another request to the server for the same exact information? And not only that, chances are in a real-world application that each API request you make will end up costing you some money. So this is where caching comes in, because this is information that does not update that frequently. I mean, the only thing that could probably update here is the population, but maybe that number updates only once a day, so still, this isn't information we need to grab live every single time. So what we're going to do next is add one single line of code to optimize this script. So what you have to do next is go to your terminal and type in pip install requests cache, and then close your terminal. Then we're going to scroll back up to the top of our script and import requests cache. Now at the top of the script, we can type in requests cache and install cache with the cache name, which we're going to call country_cache. And we're also going to add an expiry. So expiry or expire after is going to equal, let's say, 300 seconds. And this is an optional argument, so if you don't want it to expire, leave this out. But now watch what happens when we run the script. It's going to ask us to enter a country name, and if we type in Italy, it's going to take a moment, but the next time we type in Italy, it's going to be instant because it's using the cache as the source. We already retrieved that information, so why do we have to make another live request when we can just grab it locally? And even if we rerun the script, we can type in Italy once again, and it's going to grab that from the cache. And that was lightning fast because once again, we grabbed that locally. Also, when you open up your folder, you'll notice that you're going to have a new file. And this is the country_cache file if you named it country_cache. So that just contains all the data from the cache. And that's why we can easily grab that information each time we run the script. Now this is going to expire after 300 seconds, which means once 300 seconds elapses, it's going to make a fresh API request. Now to actually demonstrate how that works, we're going to change this to 10 seconds. So I'm going to run this, I'm going to type in Denmark. As you can see, it took a moment and it grabbed that from the API. Now if we do that again, it's going to grab that from the cache. And finally, I'm just going to wait a couple more seconds. And now I believe 10 seconds should have elapsed, so that when we run this one more time, it's going to grab that from the API once again, because 10 seconds elapsed, meaning that the cache was invalidated. So it made a fresh request to the server. And as you can see, it only took this one simple line of code to actually create the cache. So if you're using an API that contains data that doesn't really change that often, caching data can be the best option for your script. It's an incredible optimization because the user will be able to see the data they requested immediately since we cached it. But this was just a very simple introduction to caching. And the requests cache module is actually filled with a lot of good stuff. And this module would probably require a whole dedicated video on its own. So do let me know in the comment section down below whether you would like to learn more about this module. I might make a video about it. But otherwise, with all that being said, as always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.